So am I supposed to be looking at the camera or at Nathan?
It's started.
It stopped?
It's there. So
Oh, so where should I look at Nathan or should I look at the camera?
this is something we should decide before we start streaming.
It doesn't matter. We're
There's
just
no
getting,
other-
it's part of the beginning. It's the introduction.
So it
So I
depends.
can look at you and then I can
Yeah, I
look
think
there.
that's-
And
yeah.
then I'll look at you and then I'll look at you. So I can look at everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it will be definitely better for next time if there is somebody controlling the streaming and this is not on the.
Okay, well, you'll have to teach us. That's part of the lessons, but we don't have to learn everything now. So this is a very exciting moment because finally we get to actually use our new equipment for making our podcast. And remember, Nathan, how a couple years ago, and Jakob was there when you were there, Jakob and Loretta, right? Yeah.
I think so, yeah. Anyway, well, good afternoon to everyone. I
Good
think
afternoon.
It's fabulous, or good evening by now, actually. It's fabulous that we finally get to at least test the equipment and maybe talk about a bit about the history of what we've been doing. Well, I think it's been 2 years now that we made the very first recording, if I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, how would you, evaluate what we've done so far?
Well, I think it's been a challenging journey with ups and downs and different incarnations, if you will, because I remember in the very beginning and when it was more a bigger group of people, I think, who were participating, and then it changed when we focused more on when it became the salon, the American salon thing, and we were meeting every week and talking about how to communicate. It's always been about communication. I think that's what's really important for people to understand, is that what we are trying to do here is bring people together from different backgrounds, different experiences, and get to know each other and have a good time getting to know each other. So I don't mean like comedy good time, I mean like something meaningful. So people that we don't know anything about, or people that we might think we don't like, that we have a chance to connect. Because this is about building communication bridge.
Sure. I think what's really interesting is that one thing I have taken from all that we've been doing over the last 2 years is that we've also had to learn to communicate with each other. That we've had some pretty challenging moments with that as well, which I find really a kind of educative or education experience, that not only do we want to communicate with people outside our sort of social circles, but even as a team we've had to learn to communicate with each other on different levels in different ways.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I was looking the other day at the chat, the WhatsApp chat, and trying to figure out how to preserve it and copy it somewhere, and I didn't quite figure it out yet, but I have it on my phone. And I think that it tells a story right there, all the, every week, and the people who came and went away and stuff like that. And I think that the most dedicated ones are still here. I mean, I know Jacques is very much committed to this, and you and me, but besides that, I think Megan is also committed in her own way, and we didn't talk about the next chapter yet. We're going to get together, but I mean, I know that we wouldn't be here today had she not stepped in the way that she did. It was just a little bit awkward. And so I just want to say one more thing. And like when, the challenges we had with the episodes with our friend Tanya, I mean, that was really intense stuff that was going on, and Jacques, and I think that is really, it's kind of like important for all of our growth and understanding about each other.
I think I personally have to say I'm very happy about what happened with Tanya. It would have happened with anyone else at any other time. And I think that it might not have been pleasant at that moment, but they both learned something, and I also learned something. And that is to accept that people have different opinions, and sometimes people just have the right to be angry. I'm angry sometimes. They are angry as well sometimes. Maybe they don't always express it in the same way, or we don't all express it in the same way always, but we always have these kind of, each of us has these, moods and situations where we have, the need to express ourselves this way.
Yeah, and I'm just, as you were saying that, I was remembering how Chuck was sort of the peacemaker in the sense that, when it got really hot and the words between Tonya and Tomasz, it somehow it really, Chuck's explaining his view about how to talk about racism and rather like systemic inequality and stuff like that, as opposed to such that the term racism can be a really aggressive word to use in a conversation that you're trying not to attack somebody but understand. And I think that was kind of an interesting lesson, that contrast. And I think that's why, that Chuck, we were able to continue working together, because I think he's, sort of open.
Yes. What happened with Chuck, this week I had a major conflict, one of the worst conflicts in my life, I would say. And I took a bit of what Chuck, used, and I tried to kind of prevent the conflict. It didn't really work. Maybe it got even worse. But I remember, what Chuck's ideas and principles, and I tried to apply them. And it was kind of, when I was communicating with the group, I kind of, realized that I kind of was in Chuck's shoes a bit. And I have to say, I'm kind of very positively envious of Chuck and his ability to kind of maybe mediate sometimes, or use the right words to explain a certain situation. That is not always positive.
I've been paying attention, because we're Facebook friends, and to all the activities that he has in the different contexts, and whether it's his family or it's this music thing or Lucerna. I'm really jealous of his making a place for himself at the Lucerna. I was, for a while, a few years ago, I was going on Wednesday nights, and that was really like a fun thing to do with and I haven't been there now for several years, but it's like and he really makes, he's very self-assured, I think.
Well, I think each of us is self-assured in a different situation. But with Chuck, I was recently at home and trying to work, and there was a lot of noise coming in out of, there was some kind of music. I thought, wow, this is, it's a bit of a bother, especially now in summer with people having their windows open. And then when I was outside, I realized that very close to where I live, there was a huge concert, a massive concert. And I said, okay, well, now I know where it's all coming from. And but why not? People want to have a good time. And
was it late or was it early?
It was kind of all day, I had the impression, but also a bit at night. But once I got to know what it was, I was kind of okay with that. I was, once I realized what it was and what was going on, I felt a lot more secure. I had this kind of knowing, and I think that sometimes people are afraid of other people and situations just because they don't know. And I realized that with myself, where I was like, where's all this noise coming from? When I found out it was a concert near where I live, and that nothing is, nothing is going on, I was a lot calmer. But then I realized that Chuck was most probably one of the guys at the concert performing there, from his Facebook posts, which was very, very entertaining. So it was kind of like, I was maybe even listening to Chuck when I was sitting at my table.
So you thought that he was there?
No, he was there.
He was there.
From the Facebook posts.
Oh,
he
from
must
the.
he must have been part of all the activity that
I
was going
see.
on there. So so it was kind of
Yeah.
fun, and I learned a lot actually. I learned a lot from the Facebook posts. I didn't go to the concert myself, but I saw people, kind of go in and out and so on. Or it wasn't really a concert. It was also an event, a sports event. But then when I saw some of the other posts, it all came together, and I thought, I also learned something that I wasn't aware of before, and I would not even think of had I not been friends with Chuck on Facebook, and had there not been all this noise and sort of unpleasant, whatever circumstances, and I went out. So that's kind of what I have to say right now.
Okay. Well, I think, it is all, so from beginning until now, I think that there's been a lot of opportunities to discover things about think about all the different people who've come in and gone out, and just what they contributed when it was their trip. I think about Fonda, for instance, and how, pissed off I was at the end because I thought he was going to be involved here and continuing, but he went off in a different direction, and that's still fine. I mean, because he was really good. I mean, people can be really good and not necessarily fill the expectation, but you can still learn something, and that was really good. So I think that, we're positioned now exactly where we wanted to get finally, and the next part is going to be the challenge of putting together our social media stuff, and this can be for perhaps almost an introduction into what it's really all about, is just kind of like this, except maybe more directed with specific topics, and depending on who the people are in the conversations, and also some of that man on the street stuff. I want to have those things that you came up with. They're so funny. They're good. We need to have some humor. I'll just finish by saying I've been consumed, and I think I've told you, with this podcast thing, and a political podcast thing, and but in the United States. And what's really makes it work is the humor that they bring to it. They bring humor, and they bring real serious discussions about and explanations, and helping people who don't really understand what it's all about understand in clear English. And so I'm hoping that in our Czech way, because it's going to be in Czech, we'll offer that same kind of opportunity to people.
There are also many other people who are having the same conversations we're having. That's something that not only Hugo Rosák said, but I was able to verify now recently from a number of other independent sources, that the kind of conversations we are having, many other people are having them today here, in this country, in this part of the world. And we might not know all of them, but it's one kind of bigger voice, so we're not in kind of isolation. And
go ahead.
And I'm always surprised at how similar the expression is, that there are many similarities. I don't always agree with all of what they say, because of course we each have a different perspective. We're all subjective to a great extent. But there's something, a kind of very big common denominator.
And you watch some of these?
Sure, I watch.
Are they in Czech? Yes.
In Czech, they're in Czech. But, yes, in Czech. And it's important, I think, that they are in Czech, and they're not only from Prague, and they're not only,
So is there a way to get somehow connected when we get further along?
Sure. I think we can get connected, and there are people who are interested, who might not be necessarily really interested in working on a long-term thing, but even if it's a short-term thing.
An exchange, or
it's an
one
exchange.
episode
they
or
are
something.
Interested. And I think that also, what we are doing, many people are kind of taken aback by it, maybe not always positively, but it's just because they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They've never experienced this sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they just kind of not used to it simply.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I think it's really exciting, and we get to thank our friend Jakob for putting up with us and helping us get this far. So, and it's nice to have John here because he knows something about this, I know. And yeah, so we just have to make a schedule.
we've always worked well on a schedule, by the way. I think our meetings, regular meetings on Monday evenings, I think, we had a lot of perseverance, endurance, and
Yeah, that went on for a long time.
a long
actually.
time, and I think we were very successful with that. I would say, that I would praise ourselves.
And with the grand finale at the American Center and the little party afterwards.
Yes, the little party afterwards.
Yeah, little party
that
afterwards.
beach game.
Thank you, Jakob, for helping us have this opportunity.
Thank you for all your work and your patience again. Thank you.